This is OwlUp, where learning happens in minutes, not hours. For a deeper journey, explore all our courses at owlup.co. Now, let's dive in. Welcome back to Chapter 3 of the Mediator's Toolkit. In this episode, titled Facilitating Communication Between Parties, we're going to explore some of the common communication barriers that can arise during mediation. By the end, you'll be equipped with strategies to help bridge those gaps and foster more productive conversations. So, let's dive in. A single conversation can repair a relationship faster than months of silent tension, but only if it's handled well. Two people, same conflict. In one room, they leave furious. Next door, they leave hugging. The difference isn't them, it's how the communication between them is being guided. Most of us think good communication means finding the perfect words or finally delivering the speech we've rehearsed in our heads. But in hard relationship moments, the real leverage is often in how the conversation is held, not what gets said first. That's where facilitation comes in. Not as something only professionals do, but as a set of skills any partner or friend can quietly bring into a tense exchange. In this episode, we'll look at how to become that kind of steadying presence, the person who can slow things down just enough so both sides actually hear each other. We'll draw on what mediators, therapists, and even online dispute systems have learned about keeping dialogue safe, structured, and balanced, without turning real life into a therapy session. Think of it as learning to hold the frame of a tough talk so the relationship can do its own repair work inside it. Mediators know that beneath most arguments there's a quieter layer, people trying and failing to feel understood, respected, and not steamrolled. Neuroscience backs this up. When someone feels accurately mirrored, their stress chemistry drops and the brain regions for perspective taking switch on. That's why structured turn-taking and active listening loops aren't just communication tips, they're tools for changing the emotional temperature in the room. In close relationships, you won't be neutral, but you can borrow these moves to keep both voices in play, especially when one person usually dominates. Here's the quiet secret most mediators rely on. The conversation you see is rarely the one that decides the outcome. It's the invisible structure underneath. Who feels safe, who gets interrupted, who secretly believes this is pointless, that makes or breaks it. Start with safety. Not nobody ever gets upset, but it's allowed to be honest without punishment. In practice, that sounds like small, concrete agreements. No name calling. We'll talk for 20 minutes, then pause. We're not deciding anything tonight, just trying to understand. These micro-rules matter because the brain relaxes when it knows the edges of the game. People take more risks with the truth when they're not bracing for surprise attacks. Next is how you shape the flow of talking and listening. Professional facilitators don't just hope everyone will magically share, they design ways for it to happen. In relationships, that can be as simple as naming a sequence. First, you get 5 minutes to lay it out while I just take notes. Then I'll reflect what I heard. Then we switch. Suddenly, it's less about who is louder and more about a clear rhythm you've both agreed to follow. This is where many people get nervous. If I'm guiding the process, am I being manipulative? Notice the distinction mediators live by. You're not steering what the other person thinks, you're shaping the conditions so both sets of thoughts can appear. That's especially vital when one person is quicker with words, more comfortable with conflict, or holds more real-world power, money, status, social backup. Unchecked, that power leaks into every sentence. Neutral process moves help, offering a break before someone shuts down, suggesting each of you write your main point before speaking, or pausing the joint conversation to check in privately when there's a clear mismatch in intensity. None of that decides who's right. It simply widens the space so quieter truths can surface alongside the louder ones. When that happens, the conversation stops being a contest and starts becoming data both of you can actually use. Mediators often test their structure before the real conversation. For example, two co-founders keep derailing into old grievances during budget talks. A facilitator meets each of them separately first, asking, if this next meeting went surprisingly well, what would be different by the end? Those answers become the backbone of ground rules. One wants time limits on topics, the other wants a clear pause button when emotions spike. When they meet, the facilitator names these as shared experiments, not laws. Easier to accept, easier to adjust. In a couple setting, you might try a low-stakes version. Say you and your partner always argue about weekends. Instead of diving into plans, you propose, tonight, let's only map what matters about weekends to each of us. No solutions. You set a timer, alternate who speaks first, and jot themes on a shared note in your phones. Later, when you move to decisions, that earlier map keeps you from treating every suggestion as all or nothing. Over time, the same skills you use to steady hard talks can expand beyond one relationship. As group chats, family threads, and remote teams blur boundaries, someone who can name process and gently shape it becomes quietly influential. You might spot patterns faster. Who always goes silent in a group video call? Which topics spiral in your community Discord? With practice, you're less fixing fights and more curating spaces where better patterns can grow. Your challenge this week. In one recurring group conversation, family text, group chat, team meeting, only adjust the structure, not the content. For example, suggest a one message each before replies round, or propose a 5-minute everyone says what they need from this convo opening. Notice, who speaks that usually doesn't? What new info appears when the flow changes? Over time, you may notice something subtle. The more you tend and adjust the way conversations unfold, the more people start bringing you their harder topics earlier, like choosing a well-lit trail instead of a shortcut through the dark. You're not removing every rock, just walking with a better lamp, so fewer things get twisted in the shadows. Start with this tiny habit. When you notice a conversation starting to feel tense, even a little, silently repeat the other person's last 3 to 5 words in your head before you respond. Then, say one short reflecting phrase out loud, like, "So you're really concerned about the timing," and pause. If you're on email instead, before you hit send, add exactly one clarifying question, like, "When you say ASAP, do you mean today or this week?" Do this just once per day in any tricky interaction and let it be enough. This was OwlUp, your daily step forward. This series continues with more chapters on OwlUp.co. Visit OwlUp.co to access the complete course and continue your learning journey. See you there!